cozy and come tour my junk journal with me. I have been working on this junk journal for a few years now. I'm gonna walk through it with you, really to just show you some of the different techniques and things I've collected for this junk journal. I mean, fairly new to junk journaling, but I love it. It's so free, and it's a really fantastic way to make art and kind of celebrate everyday life, really, I think. So we're gonna walk through each page of this junk journal, and yeah, let's get into it. Also, yes, if you're wondering, it is so full that it has to be tied with a string because otherwise I think it might get stuck in the drawer it lives in. So it's a big one. Okay, so let's open this guy up. Okay, so we'll start by just talking a little bit about the cover. Nothing too crazy going on here. I actually completed the cover last after I filled this book, and I wasn't really that precious about it. I just thought something fun. It's my journal. I put the date, and I can't think of what these type of letters are called, but I just thought that was a fun way to kind of indicate the craziness that was inside, because obviously this doesn't really go with everything else I have going on, but that is the cover. And it might be a little awkward to see at first all of these pages, but I'll try to do my best to show you. So a lot of what I had in here at the beginning was junk that I'd collected over a long period of time, because I didn't start this book until after I was already living back in my hometown. So, I mean, some of these items go back as far as 2016, which is almost 10 years ago. I think that's crazy to think that I have all these things, but this I didn't put together until almost probably 6 years later. So I held on to this junk for a while. So this first page is dedicated to my time working at the MAC makeup counter. I don't know that I was supposed to keep these buttons, but I did. So, you know, thievery. And I just kind of kept little doodads from my time there, temporary tattoo, of course the buttons, my employee card that I would check into work with. Even this little thing here with the little face on it. These were something we had at work that you could help people kind of, you know, okay, what products are you putting on your face, and then you do a little swatch of it, and what are you using on your cheeks, and you do, you know. And then these pages are dedicated to my time at university. I really enjoy the kind of out-of-the-box use of this, what is my acceptance letter. I don't know that most people would keep their acceptance letters, but I found this a really fun way to keep it, and that is just using it as the background paper. Did a little bit of writing, and then over here, name tag from an event we did. I've got some course schedules, and I made those a little more interactive, so those are sort of fun. And I really like holding on to fortune cookie fortunes to add into the book when it seems appropriate, not necessarily at the time I got them, but, you know, just to add a little comment, just like a quote, like this one here. And then I've also got some business cards from a course or a class trip we took. So that's fun. And that does continue onto this next page. This is a label from Granville Island Brewing. We went there as part of a class trip, and they gave us all a label, which is kind of fun and random. So that got stuck in here. And I've also got, unrelated to any schooling, is a mini golf score card, which shows that I did lose. So we'll just tuck that away. I have a lot of these actually at the beginning of this book, but now they don't do programs at the Canucks game, so I don't have any for more recent games. But I really like keeping these and going back and looking to see, you know, who's on the roster and what were they including in this. This particular one is for the Chinese New Year, so that's on there. And then it continues onto this next page where I've got the ticket for that game, and a ticket for another game. Picture, again, another fortune cookie fortune. This is actually a piece of chocolate, and I had it in the collection of junk for the longest time and never knew. So that's just permanently in here because it's no longer edible, I'm sure. At this game, they actually gave us all these envelopes, and they had a one-night stay for the Park Vancouver, and we never used it. You tell me why we never used it. So that's fun to just utilize the envelope that they've given. Obviously, the art on it is very pretty as well. And I think something that makes journaling so special, or junk journaling in particular, is that it's not meant to be perfect. It's sort of a random assortment of things. So this is a really good example of that. I've just got a printed ticket. This is from a Cirque du Soleil event we went to. So it's not pretty like these ones. It's a little more, scrunched up from being inside of my purse. And then I've got a, combination of crazy, wacky patterns and fonts as well. And it can be really easy if you don't have all the paper or, accessories, tape and things like that to begin with. You can really just do a lot with markers and pens and the little bits of paper and things that you have. There will be pages I skip over also. If there's information that's just the next one is all wedding invitations. So I'm not going to show those because it's other people's information that I am not going to share. And then this page, or a set of pages, I really love interactive things on the pages. So I've got a flip, there's a button, this is a letter from someone, and I like that there's a lot of kind of dimension here. I've used, Ben and I, we worked at the same hotel, so you can see Ben here. So we worked at the same hotel, and he was a bellman and I was at front desk, and so we were often, with each other. And I think these are parking pass slips from the machine somewhere in the back, or I'm not sure where they came from, but we were at work, we made paper airplanes out of them, and then I kept them, and so that's how they ended up in here. This lovely gentleman wrote a letter to our manager about Ben and how lovely he was, so I included that, even though this isn't my journaling, that Ben wasn't going to journal it, so I took it upon myself to do that for him. And then I also have a room key and a quote. This is something one of the housekeepers often said, and the button, "I want your 5" was the slogan. So buttons are really fun to keep in the junk journal, even though it does add a lot of to it, and that's probably why my book ended up so puffy. Key cards are another one, unless your hotel you're staying at requires you to return them. But in this case, the hotel was changing from what it was, which was Hotel 540, to another, so they weren't going to use those key cards anymore anyways. And you'll notice that I do have writing on some of these pages, but this isn't really my journal that I write a lot in, but if I have something to say, I will put that in there. Another thing I often do, if you, maybe significant other or family member creates games for you for holidays like Easter. In this case, this was Valentine's, and Ben made this sort of puzzle out of printed images. They're taped together now, but they were all cut up and I had to put them together to figure out what we were doing for Valentine's Day. And so I've kept all of those, get them back in there. I've kept all of those, and I've just used the envelope and glued it down so that I have a little pocket to put them in. A little play card from an arcade we went to, and that, even the golf pencil I've glued down, and again another golf score sheet. Yeah, business card. This one's fun, actually. You don't often see business cards, I feel like, with such a unique shape, so that was sweet. More sports tickets. These are really great. Again, it's, I think, more of a rarity now to go to an event and get a really proper ticket, but even if you can print something out, I think it just adds a lot. And I find it really interesting to look at, where you were sitting and stuff like that, what day. It's really specific, and there's not much more that needs to be said unless you wanted to put maybe the score or what have you. So yeah, and you can see on a lot of these first pages, I just add things with marker. Another program. This one is a little different than a lot of the other pages I've got. We'd gone on a vacation, and I have a whole scrapbook for the vacation, but I also wanted to include it as part of what happened in this year. So doesn't have anything to do with the Stampede or this sticker in particular, but these are all the places we went. So I just used different markers to document that. Yeah, it's funny because you put things like this in there and you're like, I don't even know that this place exists anymore. I don't know if it had a storefront or not, but I got this at the Rib Fest in Kamloops one year, and someone was handing them out. So yeah, it's just funny, like I know exactly where that came from, even though it really doesn't mean much to me other than it's just a cool sticker. Programs from theater shows, of course, or if you have concert information, those are really fun, and the tickets from that. So I keep all of the programs from the shows, and it's unfortunate because a lot of times they reuse them, especially at the local theater where we live, and I always feel bad taking it because they could reuse it, but I'm like, sorry, I need it for my junk journal. So hold on to those things if you can from shows. This one's kind of funny. This is my version of my favorite things, and I had written this on a whim, and so it's just kind of, I thought, well, I'm probably just going to throw that out if I don't put it somewhere, so I just taped it down in here so I can see little bits of what exactly my favorite things are. Here's another example of some, holiday game kind of clues. Those are Easter hunt clues from my mom. Card from a friend here, and again, I really love the interactive. You'll see often I put washi tape on as a tab, maybe more to signal to somebody else who was looking at this that they could open this, and I've added a picture in there. This envelope here, or pocket here, I've created actually out of a drawing that we had done during COVID. So obviously nobody was really going outside, we weren't seeing family, so we just did up some doodles. I don't know if Ben actually did, I might have just done them, and put them in the window, and then of course, do you get rid of it, do you keep it? But I thought, I can repurpose part of it to make an envelope. Not a lot of the pages I have in this book are so writing heavy, again, because this isn't really my journal for that. But this was just sort of giving an overview of the time of year and the year it was, because we moved in this year. So I think there was maybe a little bit of limited junk because we were doing that. And I really love the colors on this page also. I just want to note, like, the textures I've added, even though it doesn't have anything interactive on it. I really appreciate the colors and what I've done here. So, I mean, just tooting my own horn really, but gives you some idea of things you could do for a text-heavy page. This set of pages, obviously dedicated to my dad. He passed away in 2022. And so I think I intended originally to write something on this page, but I never felt like I really knew what to write. And so I've left it empty. I think that's fine. And I've just got, like, in a little envelope here, his obituary from the paper and some little cards from people as well. So maybe not a happy journal page necessarily. Not happy, not sad, just what it is. But it's nice to have in here regardless. I mean, obviously you want to be cautious, I guess. This is fondant in here, and I've actually sealed this inside of a plastic bag to tape in here because this is an inside joke from my coworkers that I had at the museum, and I couldn't get rid of it because it was just gave me a good chuckle. Of course, you could always put a picture instead of the actual thing, but it's a little unique. Same with this tiny little bow. I just was obsessed with it, so I had to put it in there. Another pocket with some Easter clues inside. This is the front of a card that I just loved. This sketch. This is a local artist from my hometown. She also was a director at the museum, so little nod to her there. This is all July. Something that used to exist and does not exist anymore is called a smash book, and I don't know if it was specific to Michael's, but they had, it was like junk journaling, kind of like, I feel like the beginning of junk journaling from what I can recall. And I never had one. My sister did, and I think that's probably how I ended up with these, but they're like little prompts, so like you could put quote of the day, you could put this, but it's like a little pack, and it kind of prompts you to write something. And so I've utilized one of those here, which I don't use those near enough. Another couple of tickets. The pictures I have in this journal mostly are from my Canon, what the heck is that thing called? It's like a little, a tiny little printer, but unfortunately that printer has just decided to stop charging, so maybe I'll be able to get it fixed. I'm not sure, but so a lot of these images made it really easy because I could just print them at home. Yeah, but if you have the ability to have one of those, they are really handy for printing little bits of things. The photo paper is always crazy expensive, but it is fun to have. And this one, again, really heavy on the text, which I'm surprised there's so much that's actually heavy on the text. A brochure from Barkerville, which is a historic town near where we are. And I've glued it in here in such a way that I can still open the full brochure, which I love to do because I want to see it. And then if like 20 years from now something's changed, then I can look back and kind of make a comparison or just see what was different, what kind of shows they had on, things like that. I love that. So a couple of pictures from that. Trip to Bella Coola we put in here. Sticky notes are a really inexpensive and handy accessory. I don't know what to call that, to have, because you can do, like I've done some things on the little ones. They come in all fun colors, and then I've got big ones as well, and it's just easy little pieces of paper. Instead of cutting things down, they're just already ready to go. Stamp, for someone who does any kind of scrapbooking or card making, you may have stamps. This one is a personalized stamp my sister got for us, so I had to put that in here on little Wren's page. This when we first got her, so yeah, it's cute. Oh, skip the page. This one is also quite unique comparatively to the rest of the book. Again, I had mentioned before that you can do a lot with just markers and like really simple materials and tools, and this is a good example of that, where I had so much that had happened that I wanted to document, but I didn't have any junk for it, so I just simply made a fun page with all sort of saying what exactly I did and when. So that's a fun kind of different page that I did. And then this one, lots of interactive. So I've got tickets to shows and a market, and I've written a little bit about each of those, again utilizing the sticky notes. I really appreciate having those. This is a business card. It's just the backside of an artist's business card, and he does really lovely work, Neil Pinkett, and so I just appreciated that he had that and I could use it to add to my junk journal. Now I feel like this is when I get heavy into food junk. Anytime we go to a large city center, we eat out a lot more, so you end up collecting a little bit more things. This is like off a donut bag, and again, we've seen this before. We went there again. This is from a menu, like they had a brochure you could take, and I also cut out my favorite thing to get from there because it's just delicious. I had to highlight it. It's just fun to play with the color and cut out, and you end up with things like this. You could ask for a fresh bag without anything in it, but quite often you end up just like making sure you got the cleanest bag you can and then just sticking it in here. So there's possibly donut on the back of that, I don't know. And this was something that Ben's sister had printed out to tell us that we were going to go see this show, and so I just utilized that to put on the backside of a flap with some text. And this is a fun idea, I think, and it's a little nerve-wracking. I'm not great at asking for things like this, but if you are interested and you go to a place where they have this sort of grease paper, you know, it's like a little flimsy sheet they put down underneath like pizza or tacos in this case, and I just asked the server for a sheet of it so that I had something without any food or grease on it and could put that down in my book. Business card's an obvious one, but receipts are also great, and if you can take a bag and just like rip part of it off like I've done here, or cut the logo off, it's always pretty handy, and it's something a little different texturally. Speaking of sticky notes, this is a collection of sticky notes Ben put around the house for me for Valentine's Day one, so that's a page dedicated to that. And then there's some more here that are from my mom. from a different time. Again, business cards. If you places have paper menus, they're great for getting the logo off of. This is a little brochure this place had, receipts, backside of a ticket, and then I've used it to kind of make an interactive flap to show a picture. And same here, we never recorded our bowling record here, but they had these for free at the bowling alley, so just utilize that to add some more to this page. You end up walking around with a lot of stuff in your bag and in your wallet. We quite often utilize one of these sort of file facts keepers, like receipt organizers, because we end up with so much, especially on a longer vacation. But I mean, if you have the ability in your purse to carry one of these around, it might come in handy if you're an avid junk journaler. This is actually one of my favorite pages I think I've done. I just really enjoy what I did here, which was utilize the map from the Van Dusen Gardens where we visited during this trip. And so I can still look at the whole map. I'm not sure how much of that you can see. But then on the other side, I added in the pictures and writing, and then of course everything food-wise that I could keep. Wrapper from a chocolate, business card. This is from a box. Even like this Jzen tea. This is just the straw wrapper I cut, and then I just added onto a piece of paper. Of course, the receipt. One thing to keep in mind with receipts, because of how they operate, I think thermal like printing, eventually they do wear out. So if you have the ability to copy them and print them out again, then they'll just have a little more longevity, because eventually these will just wear down and you won't be able to read what's on them. Lots of stickers on this page as well. I mean, obviously over time, if you're someone who does a lot of journaling, you may get a collection of stickers, which is really fun, and it's like a little addiction. I often utilize a lot of pockets because I have letters, and in this case this is an article a friend wrote, a little card from a friend, simple page. It's pretty special because it's one of my friends leaving, and you know. This one here is a program from one of my sister's graduations. And then there's a little bit more ticket and things in there dedicated to that time. Comparatively to a lot of my pages, actually, this one's quite simple. This is a bag from Barkerville. We visited there with one of my friends. And so I just really like the bag. And so I just use that and then simply put a picture of her there with two of the folks there from Barkerville. And that sort of continues onto this page because she was moving back home. So we've got a ticket to another event we went to together, a letter from her, a little bit of writing. And another thing to look out for is if you're ever somewhere, most places that are like a national park, I've only really seen that in the States, but you can sometimes get a free stamp, and they'll just have them sitting out with little scraps of paper, and you can just go up and stamp it. We have some for like the Golden Gate Bridge, for example, and those are really fun. And if you just can like stamp a few, then you can use them for, you know, scrapbook or junk journal, and yeah, a little free token sort of to say, you know, you were there. Especially if you don't buy something from like the gift shop, you don't get a bag, you know, that sort of thing. This one was not a stamp, but like not a letter stamp, I should specify, but it was stamped on an envelope, and I just cut it off and kept it. I really love this page. This is sort of dedicated to my birthday. My friend Tate, she always decorates her letters so beautifully, so she'll add little, I think she used this as the envelope for this card, and she like sticks, like, look how charming that is. She's cut out a piece of like a magazine here, stickers, and then she'd actually cut out all these little stars and included them inside the letter, so I used them to decorate the page. It's nice to have crafty friends who send you cute things like that. Here, another trip to the coast, so some places we went, including a whole brochure on the Bjorn Bar Bakery, because I just love looking at all the dessert bars they have. It makes me hungry. I can't even look at that right now. A letter from a friend, and this is off of a plastic packaging, which actually works surprisingly well to attach that in there, even though you can see the tape. I don't know if this page is unfinished or something. I don't really understand this little blip I've written in here, but whatever. This is another piece of that sort of greased paper. I'm sure it's got a name from a different restaurant. This one's sort of a mishmash because it's actually combining. No, it's not. It's kind of mainly vacation based. A luggage tag that I finally took off my suitcase, a cap from a lemonade drink we had. This is a little Snoopy doghouse that was an interactive activity at the Charles M. Schulz Museum. And so we made a couple of them, and then we've used them in a scrapbook. And then I also have one here that houses my little bit of writing about this page. Another thing to keep an eye out for is if you go anywhere and they give you these sort of wax paper bags, or little paper bags are great for keeping items you may want to take in and out or make a little more interactive on the page. A little bit of Halloween page here. This is the start of my pen pal, or pen gal we call it, letters with one of my best friends. So you'll start to see a lot more pockets with large wads of paper, and this is where I like to house mine. So if you have a pen gal or someone who writes letters to you, then this is a great place to keep them, is in your junk journal. Another program, and this one I've added interactive. I've made interactive, so I've actually taken over a page to decorate. They do take up so much of this book, and this is I'm not sure what size book this is, but this is a great size book. It's a Canson sketchbook, and I love the square pages because this works really well for a program size like this, where I can still put something on this part if I'd like, or I can put it more in the center and just color on the outside. And then I also have the ability to take up some of the more advertisement pages and actually put it, like, make it part of the spread. So here I've glued in some business cards and things from the month and also from that same trip. And that's fun. And again, I like to look through these later on, and you can go back and say, oh, that person was in this show too, like who did they play, etc. So this one here, pretty simple. This is some wrapping paper I had and I really liked. I must have had a scrap of it, I think. So I put that in here. Christmas letter from a friend, and tickets to Cinderella that we saw at the local theater. And you can see this program is almost perfectly sized for this, so it's just a program. Some more sticky notes from Ben on this one. And I had a calendar, like a little desk calendar that was all Disney. I have kept all of the pages because they all had beautiful artwork, some of them sketchy kind of works, and then some of them more like from the animations. I keep those, and then I put them in when I feel like they fit. So yeah, this one's cute with the little strawberry background. I think it turned out pretty well. Another letter from my friend, another one up here. You can see I've got quite the collection. Another program there, and this one I had the tickets for. This page I actually really like as well, even though it doesn't look like there's a lot going on. It's got several envelopes, so it's pretty interactive in terms of what you can take out. So I've got some pen gal letters, a letter from my other friend, and then this is full of confetti, and these are the confettis inside. So I've kept those, so if I need to reuse that confetti, I still can. It's just sort of a fun thing to have, and again, it's interactive. This is another set of pages that I really like, and I think this shows a good sort of alternative to using color. I think most times when I'm using, or when I'm junk journaling, I'm using every color, because when you get junk, you're not controlling what color it's going to be. But in this case, I had these items, and then I had obviously a lot to say, so it's quite wordy on this side. But I've just sort of used other colors that tied in with these here. And it just so happened that we went somewhere that had this logo. So it worked out really nicely that it went so well with these things. So this is a strike. I don't know what it's called. You wear it when you're on strike, of course, button. And then this is a zine I made all about being on strike. And I just had it sitting on a shelf before, but this seemed like a good, safe place to keep it and remember it. Now we're getting somewhere where this side is really full because we're getting closer to the end of the book. Another pen gal letter. One thing that I like to do is cut out, well, there's a few things actually on these pages that I really like to do. First being any packaging you like the art on, a cardboard box or like a cereal box or food packaging even at home. This is something I'm trying to get into a little bit more because when you don't go anywhere or travel anywhere, sometimes like we don't eat out that much. You know, you got to find some things to add to your journal. You can find little cute things on boxes and packages. This is from a needle felting kit. Another is taking doodles from your family or loved ones, your friends. Friend sent me this on probably the envelope for this letter, and so I cut it out and included it there. That's from another package. This is from an envelope that my grandma sent a card in. I can't remember where I got this confetti, but again, more confetti I had to keep. It's so pretty. Wristbands. I had a lot of 50/50, so I've just made those with a little sign on the front. I do really enjoy this pocket. Is probably the most full I had. It's just an envelope that someone sent me a letter in, and I've repurposed to make into a pocket. And again, I've utilized the washi tape to add the tabs onto a couple different letters. I can't think of what this is called, but it's one of those, like, you know, games one of my friends made me, and this way we can still play it, so it's easily accessible there. I've even got a little write-up in here about this time. This was another trip to the coast, and so lots of food. I liked using this menu. Again, they had a paper menu I could take, so I cut out part of the menu and utilized it as the background, and I specifically wanted to be able to see something I had there, which was this refresher, so I kept that sort of visible. It's fun to read and, you know, see how much certain things were at the time. Washi tape also is a great fun thing to have. Maybe you have like junk journaling friends or people who journal or card make around you. You can always share washi tape too. One thing I struggle with is like using a whole roll sometimes is a little bit much, so finding them at thrift stores or like reuse art recycling places. There's one in Vancouver called Urban Source on Main Street, and it's amazing, and you can find like someone's used half a roll of washi tape and then they've given it up, and you can get it there for like way less, and then, you know, you can have more of a variety. But if you live close to people who also use washi tape, maybe you can share, you know, because then everybody gets a little bit more variety. Another program, and on this one I really liked this back page and the words, so I utilized that. Picture, part of a bag. I have a lot of fun scissors, but I also have a couple of punches, I guess they would be called, from the dollar store actually, so it's a good place to look for little tools. This page, simple because everything I had was so big. Program from the art walk that I did, and it's tabbed to my page. And then this was the write-up they had about me on display with my art, so I took that once it was over and I put it in here so I could remember what it was exactly that it said about me. Okay, this is our second to last page. This is a Disneyland Paris park guide, so I've got it in here again so that I can look at it fully. And Ben's sister had gone to Disneyland Paris and she gave this to me. I think that's pretty cool. Again, utilizing some punches and really working with the colors on that one. And actually, this is the last page in this book. This is actually one of my favorite pages I've done, and more recently as well. Again, cut out some packaging, utilized these letters. I've got a little flap here. Actually on the back side, which I won't show you because it has personal information, is a prescription like sticker, and that was like the first time I ever got a prescription medication. So as much as that's not maybe exciting for most, maybe it is for you, and maybe like, you know, you want to remember that. In this case I did, so I stuck it on the back side here. I did a little list of things that we did that month, and then I actually did, instead of photos, I did little doodles of the costumes that I made for Halloween that year. So that is the end of my very full junk journal, at least the first bit of it. I've continued crafting pages because what I did was unbound this book and took out probably more than half of the pages, because it was quite a large book. Obviously, it's supposed to be a sketchbook, but I just couldn't fit any more in here. So I took out a good stack of pages that I'll rebind with a cover. But for now, I'm just making the pages on the individual sheets loose, and that's fine. It's working. But yeah, this is the first junk journal that I finished. This has, what is that, 8 years worth of junk, and I only am worse now for collecting junk because obviously I'm so aware of it, so I'm always holding on to different things. So the junk journaling shall continue, and you likely will see more content about it. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of my junk journal, and I hope that there was some inspiration in there for you, and thank you so much for watching.